right. This question came from one of our faithful subscribers, and she wanted to know, now that you're in the waiting process, and now that you know, okay, God is telling you to be still and don't pursue, that's the hardest part. What do you do? So that's where this video came from. All right, be blessed.
All right. So, like, he's telling you to be still. You know what he said, versus him not telling you and him allowing things to happen to make you be still without you knowing that's what he's making you do. It's like it's a struggle when he's telling you to do it, but it's like it seems like you have to trust him more when you don't know that's what he's doing. Like, get in touch with certain people that you've been trying to get in touch with. Just something on you. You're just trying to push yourself through it, but you can't get in touch with them. They're nowhere around. Normal times you're able to get in touch with them, but you're not able to get in touch with them. And you're like, well, dog, why can't I get in touch with them? I'm used to getting in touch with them, but it never dawns on you that God don't want you to get in touch with them. That's his way of telling you to stay still, without him literally telling you.
Don't do nothing. I got you.
So, in other words, you don't know that's what he's doing, so you're getting frustrated. Okay, you getting upset, you getting mad, then you start thinking to yourself, well, why is it not opening up for me, or why is it not happening for me, but then it's happening for other people? But you never dawn to think, or you never think that it's really God behind the scene who's not allowing you to get in touch with the person who you've been trying to get in touch with, or that job that you've been trying to seek to get. And you put in your application, you put in your resume. Matter of fact, you got friends in high places who said that position is going to come open and it's going to be for you. But 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 months, or even a year has gone by, and they're trying to figure out, well, I don't know what's going on because my supervisor told me that it was happening, and they're not doing it. It's like God is working behind the scene because God is really trying to tell you He wants you to be still. Without literally verbally telling you. And then there are some people that he deals with that he verbatimly, they hear his voice and he actually says, be still. So which one is easier? I would say when you hear his voice. Because immediately when you hear his voice, it gives you a sense of peace. Why do God do that? Why is it that one person, or one child, he take them in a totally different direction of telling them to be still without verbally telling them to be still? Versus one other child, they literally hear his voice say, stay still. But God has a way of dealing with his children in different ways and different aspects. One, he may tell them, stay still, don't move. Now there's a reason why he did that. There's a reason why they verbatimly heard his voice. Is it possibly if he would have dealt with that child like he have dealt with other children by not allowing things to open up for them, not allowing the doors to open up for them, he knows that they're going to fall. He knows that they're not going to, they're going to push their way through, and therefore, because he's a father who does not overthrow your will and give you that free will to make the choice, he knows that you're going to make the wrong choice. So with you, or that child who verbally hear his voice, that's the one that he would speak to them verbatimly and tell them, be still, because he knows that if he did not do it that way, they will get themselves in more trouble. Versus the person who he can just literally close the door as they continue to try to pursue, and that door continues to stay shut. And eventually they're going to pray and say, well, God, why you didn't open? And then it's going to come to them. Okay, God, you protected me. Okay, I know why. Okay, I don't know exactly why, but I know it has something to do with this is not your will and this is not the timing for this. So therefore, Father, I'm going to stay still. Matter of fact, they would naturally say to themselves, you know, as they talking to somebody, you know, hey, bruh, man, I tell you, man, I've been trying to push you with, or the young ladies who talk to their sisters, girl, I'm just gonna be still. For real?
Everything got
so passionate about girl. No, I'm just gonna stay still. I ain't gonna move because I believe God telling me to stay still. I just believe it. Well, how you believe it? Because I just know. Well, did you hear his voice? It ain't the fact of me hearing his voice. It's the fact of the way things have been happening to make me recognize that God is telling me to be still. Oh, okay. Well, girl, at least you know. And the same thing with a guy, or same thing with a brother. Man, nah, bro, I ain't gonna do that. Why, bro? I mean, hey, man, you got to walk with faith. Nah, you're not understanding. And they're not sharing with that. The brother's not sharing with the other brother. Man, every door I went to, it was closed. Like a friend of mine, he was telling me that every time he went to go to pursue to get released from this marriage, it's like nothing. It's like he couldn't get the money to get up in order to get to the lawyer. Every time he did, something happened. And every time he tried to get the money up, something else would happen where he have to use the money to spend for that. So he didn't have the money to get to the lawyer. So the lawyer been waiting for him. But he has not gotten the money yet. And then another guy who got released from the marriage, from his marriage. This is another brother. He got released from the marriage just like that in no time. In 6 weeks, he got released from the marriage. Why? Because it was God's timing. It was the way everything transpired. One, he couldn't. That door did not open for him to get the money in order for him to pay the fees, in order for him for the lawyer to file the papers and all of that. And then another brother, in 6 weeks, bam, it was done. So God has a way of speaking. And when he speaks, he deals with his children differently. And it's better, even though one, in God's eyes, to me, now, in God's eyes, neither one of them is better than the other, because God is in the one that's working the plan. The one he's closing the door so they wouldn't go through, so he's really, in other words, telling them to stay still. And then the other one, who is hearing God's voice verbatimly, God telling them to stay still. Both of them, God is reaching, but he's reaching them in their own way. Don't get frustrated. When you hear God's voice verbatimly, and he tells you to stay still, and it looks like that other people are moving, there's a difference. God is dealing with them differently than he's dealing with you. That doesn't mean he loves you more than them. Don't get the big head now. Don't think that you're better than them. He just dealing with you differently than he's dealing with them. So you have to embrace the way God speaks to you. I've always used to wonder, like, man, Lord, I would love to just hear your voice verbatim. I used to talk like that some years ago. But boy, look at him. When I heard God's voice verbatimly, it was soft, nice, it was beautiful. It was an experience that I would never forget. And it is all of that. And then I would rather God speak to me verbatimly than for me to have to go through that process of learning that God is speaking to me because he's not opening up the door, the door that I'm trying to walk through, the door that I'm trying to go through. I would rather God speak to me verbatimly. But just because he speaks to me verbatimly versus the way he speaks to someone else, he may not speak to them verbatimly. He may speak to them by not allowing what they're trying to pursue. It may not come to a flourishing at that time, or it may not manifest at that time. Yeah, they're going to get frustrated, but God is still speaking. But personally, me, I'd rather take God speaking to me verbatimly versus him not speaking to me verbatimly. That would make me feel more comfortable, because I know, okay, I'm not going to do anything. Go with the key.
Okay, you guys, so it's my part. Let me put my little 2 cents in regards to being still.
Just got $50.
So my take on it is I totally agree with my husband. It's easier when God tells you to be still versus you trying to figure it out because you are pursuing and doors are just closing and things are just not happening. Now, when you get to the point where you feel like, okay, I know, whether you heard him, whether you experienced the door shuts in your face and the no's and the rejection, once you realize, okay, God, I need to be still. Now what? That is, to me, the most difficult part. Yes, you know you're supposed to be still. Yes, God has told you. Now you know you have to obey. But just because God tells you doesn't mean it's going to make it easier to be still and not move, because our nature, human nature, you want to work, you want to do, you want to, it's like sitting is like you're not doing anything, but people don't understand that sitting still is an adjective. You are doing something. It is an action. You're obeying God. And that is very complicated for a lot of people. It's very difficult to stand still because we're used to doing, working, and getting it done. Because we have been told, you work to get what you want. You work to do what you want in life. But there's some times where you work, and there's some times God is saying stand still. How do you stand still without the temptation of wanting to move? There's going to be temptation. Don't make me sit up here and tell you there's not. There's going to be temptation. You're going to see people. You're going to be motivated. Something in you is going to start stirring up for you to start doing something, because maybe you see somebody else doing something. You're getting impatient, or whatever the case may be. But I remember when I was in the standstill, it's like God is putting you in a cell, a holding cell, and you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything but just obey Him in regards to life and pursuing. And my husband said something earlier. He was saying how one thing you want to do is get people out of your circle that doesn't respect the voice of God in your life, that doesn't respect the fact that if God's saying to stand still, no one in your circle should be saying anything contrary to what God is saying. That's how you know that your so-called circle, your friends, are maybe being used to get you out of God's will. So you definitely want to be able to have a deaf ear to anyone who's telling you outside of what God is telling you to do. So you have to have the strength in you to say, no, that's not what God's telling me to do. Yeah, it sounds all good and dandy, but no, I'm going to stand still and I'm going to stick to that. Some people may not understand. Some people is going to tell you, well, faith without works is dead. Not understanding. If you haven't seen that video, please check it out. Faith without works has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with you obeying what God has told you what those works are. Totally different. So we have taken that verse out of context, and we have gotten ourselves into a lot of trouble. So don't let them pressure you in thinking, well, you got to be doing something. God is not going to bless you if you don't do anything. No, God is not going to bless you if you don't obey Him. Totally different. Do what God is telling you to do, even in your standing still moment or phase in life. There's other things God is telling you to do. Has nothing to do maybe with that job you're trying to pursue. It has nothing to do with you waiting on your spouse. It has something to do with something totally different from what you think. It could be helping people. It could be, taking up another hobby. You just don't know. Whatever God is telling you to do outside of what you are waiting for, that's what you need to take heed to do. Because standing still may not just be standing still doing nothing. It just means standing still from pursuing that thing that you think you should be pursuing right now. So make sure you're listening to God and asking God, okay, God, what is it in this standstill moment you will have for me to do? And there may be other things He will have for you to do outside of what you feel you should be doing. Make sense? Another thing that helped me was getting involved in things that you love. Have a life outside of just waiting on what you want. You know what I'm saying? So if you can just get in tune with what you like, get in tune with who you are, get in tune with what makes you tick, those things can be perfected in your waiting process. Those things can be perfected in the time that you are not pursuing what you want to pursue. And it gets your mind off of those things as well. So if it means you need to exercise and get in the best shape of your life, focus on that. If it means that you need to write in your journal about whatever, do that. Whatever it is, if it means you need to go and, feed the hungry and whatever God is telling you to do at that moment. Don't do what you feel you should be doing. That's the key. Do what God has told you to do. God, in this time of waiting, In this time of being still, what would you have for me to do? Because even when you're standing still, there are other things he may be telling you to do. I need you to be the light at your job. I need you to speak to that lady over there about XYZ. I need you to go over there and bless your neighbor, or whatever the case may be. There's something that he wants you to do that will glorify his name, that has nothing to do with what you're waiting on. Okay? Most of the time, we forget about those things because we're so focused on what we want, and we're so focused on our desire. But when you're ready to just accept the fact, okay, God, I'm waiting, I'm not moving. When you're ready to bring me that husband, okay. When you're ready to bring me that wife, okay. When you're ready to send me that promotion, okay. When you're ready to send me that job, okay. Outside of that, God, okay, now I'm ready. I'm content with where I am. What will you have me to do in this wait? That's what you should be asking God, and that's what you should be listening for, and then obeying. Outside of that, baby, once you do that, the waiting continues to be easy. Now, you will have times you will get weak. You will have times where you like, oh, God. Push through those moments. Pray through those moments. And God got you. Trust him. Don't give in. Don't give up. God got you. All right? I love you. We really hope that this message really resonate with those who have gotten to the point where now you're waiting. Now what? All right. Be blessed. This is your process. Love it, trust it, embrace it. Be you, and keep it moving. Bye, you guys.